What's up, everybody? Welcome into an NBA Cup Championship edition of SSPN Postgame. Unfortunately, a bittersweet edition here, Ethan, with the Spurs taking the loss to the New York Knicks. But I think the reason that it's so bittersweet and that this one kind of hurts, I mean, out of all the games of the season, as much as this doesn't count as a loss on the Spurs win or loss record for the regular season, the reason this one stings is because of the fourth quarter collapse. There's just no other way to put it. And I hate to be this guy, Ethan, to oversimplify things and just make it this simple. But honestly, that fourth quarter looked like a team that has had multiple playoff runs, is coming off a run in the Eastern Conference Finals versus a team that hasn't even made the playoffs before. Now, granted, did that matter against the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder? No, it did not. The Spurs found a way and they didn't, implode in the fourth quarter in a close game, a 2-point game, similar to a close game like this one. But again, this was kind of with everything on the line. So that's kind of what I felt like I saw. I mean, obviously the last field goal percentage I saw in the fourth quarter, the Spurs were 4 for 16. So it wasn't just the turnovers and everything like that. They just shot really poorly, on top of the Knicks, making a lot of plays and making a lot of shots and really turning up from three in the fourth quarter there.
Yeah, I think you can absolutely write a lot of it off as that playoff experience that you're talking about. But I also think the Knicks just showed they were a more physical team. The team wanted this more, honestly. And I point to all the offensive rebounds in that fourth quarter, the extra second chance points. And then the Knicks, you got to give their bench credit. And OG Anunoby, he's not a guy that's known for shooting. This is the second time I think that he's done this to our Spurs. The first time was when he was with the Raptors, now with the Knicks with 28 points. Like,
Yep.
he's a great player, but not a guy you write offensive sets for. And for him to get 28 is inexcusable. And then you have Tyler Kolek and Jordan Clarkson off the bench, both very solid players. But when they go for 15 and 14, and really a lot of those baskets came late in this game, and they were
Yeah.
momentum plays too. That's hard to overcome. So it's tough to write off some really great stuff that happened in those first three quarters, a really competitive game. But when it came down to it in that fourth quarter, the Knicks, they wanted it more. They played harder. Their other guys played better than ours. And, De'Aaron, as much as I thought he had a really good first three quarters, 5 turnovers as well, and really was pretty abysmal down the stretch.
Yeah, there's nothing else to say, dude, because I was thinking when they were kind of showing his highlights going into the fourth quarter at 15 and 8, I was like, dude, we talk about him being quiet. I was like, that's a loud 15 and 8. And you just really didn't, I can't think of one single thing in the fourth quarter that stood out. I don't think he made a single shot in the fourth quarter. Now, when we're saying this, we're evaluating this singular game. This is not me saying De'Aaron Fox is a bad clutch player. He's terrible. This is an issue. That's not what I'm saying. But in this game, it was. Um, and yeah, when you mentioned Tyler Kolek and Jordan Clarkson, I don't know if all three of those threes were in the third quarter. I know at least, or excuse me, the fourth quarter. I know at least two of them were late down the stretch for him. San Antonio native, you could tell that he was definitely taking this one personally, especially with the game on the line in the fourth. Like you mentioned, Tyler Kolek out of Marquette has been a solid player for them, and is really just kind of a team guy. But as we we scrolled down a little bit earlier, dude, 15 boards for Mitchell Robinson. And man, honestly, when Cat went out with his little calf strain and he ended up coming up back in, and the crazy thing is when he comes back in, it's a moving screen on Steph Castle, and then I forget exactly who he fouled, or he fouled Wemby, which sent Wemby to the free throw line. Prior to that, the offensive rebounding battle was, I mean, it was just night and day. That graphic that I mentioned earlier when the Spurs were 4 for 16, at that point in the game, this was like late fourth quarter. I can't remember exactly the time. It was 11-2 on the offensive rebounds. And that was before Cat came in. So not only could the Spurs not hit a shot, but like that first possession of the game, or not of the game, of the fourth quarter, Julian Champagnie is like doing his best, doing a great ISO one-on-one possession on Jalen Brunson and forces a miss on a step back three. And they're mentioning he's from Brooklyn. And I'm like, this is your moment, Julian. Let's, it's Jordan Clarkson's moment, for his hometown. This is, the inverse with Julian on the Spurs, but we just couldn't get an offensive board or excuse me, a defensive board. And to be honest with you, and I was seeing some people mention this on Twitter, dude, we needed a little bit more defensive rebounding from Victor in those scenarios, and obviously he's on a minutes restriction. He's coming back into the game. Like, there's some grace that I want to give Victor. We're not in the NBA Cup finals without Victor. You know what I mean? There were still a lot of clutch shots that he made in this game. We're not in the game without him. But there was a difference between him and Luke Kornet in that Mitchell Robinson matchup.
Yeah, without a doubt. Mitchell Robinson was huge, and really the team is in general, they were out rebounded 59-42 in rebounding, and a lot of those down the stretch in important situations. Yeah, not a good look for sure. And I know I was negative about De'Aaron Fox, but also Harrison Barnes. I saw this in the comments. Really bad time for him to go cold. We also needed him against OKC, and he was kind of missing, and then again missing tonight. And really from deep, everybody but Dylan was kind of inconsistent from deep tonight, and we are very highly dependent on guys like Julian Champagnie, Harrison Barnes having really solid games from deep. And when they're cold, it requires substantial improvements from our individual players. And we had that from Dylan. I think we had that from Steph as well. And obviously Victor, but De'Aaron Fox, not the best game. And really Victor as well, not really a super efficient night. And definitely could feel the physicality from the New York Knicks that wasn't necessarily there in the OKC game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that's more like, I want to give the Knicks credit, but I
Mm,
also feel like the Spurs just didn't handle the physicality as well as maybe they did in the OKC game. And if you want to say that the Knicks play more physical, I'm not going to, argue that necessarily. Obviously, switch from Tom Thibodeau to Mike Brown, but you still have a lot of that same, defensive
right.
intensity. But OKC just got Hardenstein back in the last game. So I feel like this was a little bit of the Spurs just kind of just getting beat straight up in
Yep.
that aspect.
We were texting back and forth, and there's certainly some negatives and some specific plays you can point at the referees making some pretty bad calls, especially in that fourth quarter. But really, those first three quarters, I was very, very, very pleased with the officiating. And Jude, they had in the OKC game, we had 32 free throw attempts, and they had 27. Tonight, we had 22 free throw attempts, and the Knicks had 15. So really, they were allowing a lot more physicality to go down in this game. And to me, it felt like the Spurs
Yeah.
players, I think about De'Aaron, I think Steph a little bit, and Victor for sure, they were like imploring the referees in moments. And sure, maybe a foul, but like in these moments and games like this, like they're calling it closer to a playoff game. And I'm glad we had this experience because you're not going to get those same calls. And in those moments, you can't expect those calls. You just have to make the right play. And the Knicks were doing that. The Spurs were not.
And also, I'm sorry, like, for all of the ref stuff, we didn't start the fourth quarter because of the refs. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So if we're down, however much we're down, and that's our own fault, you can't be looking for the refs for, oh, why didn't I get a call? And yes, I get it. Look, for the whole game, I'll go on a rant here. I felt like Steph was getting hacked. And then,
Yep.
Julian doesn't even touch Jalen Brunson and he gets a foul call. So like I saw that throughout the game. And the weird thing is they were giving it to Wemby. It was just like certain players weren't getting
Right.
it. So I understand the frustration, but honestly, Ethan, and I'm not disagreeing with you. Like I hear our guy Ven GX John. He says the Knicks had the refs playing for them. Like I totally get y'all's sentiment, but also at the end of the day, look, it was very close in those first three quarters, and the Spurs had
Yeah.
the slight edge, right? They were
Yep.
just beating them out. And then obviously that third quarter, we were able to build the lead up to 10 a couple times, but the Knicks, have a lot of scores and we're able to get back into it. But again, that run at the beginning of the fourth quarter is why we lost. And I don't really think that had that much to do with officiating.
No, I don't think so either. The only play that I was actually like upset about was the Luke Kornet false charge that took away a Champagnie three. But I, even if that three had gone down, maybe we win this game by the hair of our chins. But still, to your
Right.
point, is completely valid. Like that run was not because of that moment. That just could have maybe changed some things in the outcome. But it shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. Like with the rebounding and the lack of physicality and just crying, for lack of a better word, is the reason why we were where we were.
And see, I said that whole rant and I forgot that they gave Mitch a technical for being right.
They did, and he missed the free throw. Luckily, the
Yeah,
basketball
that was
gods
ball don't
understood.
lie. Yeah.
Yep, ball don't lie for sure.
Well, I don't mean to make any light of this because as much as this is the NBA Cup and we've said that, this isn't the real championship, we would have been pretty hyped and
For
celebrating
sure.
tonight if we won, just like the Knicks, especially with all the Spurs have gone through over the past couple of years. But I will say, Ethan, as our guy Oh So Carolina here in the chat says, this game was meaningless. And
Mm.
in terms of wins and loss record, it was. Obviously, I think there's definitely a lot of meaning and experience that we can derive from this game, like we were just talking about. But I'm glad that at least this isn't a loss on the win loss column.
This is a really interesting stat here, Jude. This is the first time I've seen this. Where even is this? It's in the GameCast section of ESPN. If you scroll down to probabilities and game flow, the Spurs had an 88% chance to win this game at the
Oh,
2:07
Lord.
mark of the third quarter. And then as quickly as where is it here? 10:27 mark of the fourth quarter, it flipped to 64% chance for the Knicks. So, what is that? A 4-minute stretch where it just completely inverted in favor of the Knicks, and that was the momentum shift there.
Yeah, we got the graph up here on the screen, and that perfectly illustrates it, man. But just to get into maybe if we're gonna talk about one thing that I really don't have too many criticisms for tonight, I say thing, one person, one player. Well, shoot, Dylan Harper basically was a thing
Yep.
that the Knicks had to guard tonight, man, out there. But I mean, dude, just such a great game from him. Not just the 5 for 7 from three, but we're down 107 to 115. He hits
Mhm.
that rainbow three from the
Yep.
left spot that he hit another one later. So he found his spot right there, but then gets back on defense, forces that over and back on Jalen Brunson of all people. Like, if I had to pick an MVP in a loss tonight, it's definitely Dylan Harper.
I I might just to play devil's
Okay.
advocate, I'm gonna go with Steph Castle because I do really think this is
Ooh.
one of his better games because I think he got 11 assists. He had 11 points, 11 assists, 0 turnovers at one point. And Stan Van Gundy was talking about how big of a fan he was, and defensively too, he was without a doubt our best perimeter defender tonight. So I'm gonna give the nod to Steph Castle, even though he finished with 2 turnovers and he only hit 1 3. I still think he was really the heart and soul tonight that kept us afloat for most of the game.
Dude, he was facilitating like
Yeah.
crazy. He was I mean, it's De'Aaron had 9 assists, but, I was talking about him being loud. That was more of the points that he scored. Steph's assists tonight were loud. There was one behind the back where he was coming up. I wanna say in transition. They brought the ball up the floor, but it was early in the possession, so, like, the
Mm,
defense wasn't fully set, and he just hits a no look behind the back, bounce pass to Wemby for a wide open 3 on the right wing.
mhm.
And that was just one play, but I don't think I'm not mad at you picking him either. It's the Slash brothers. It's one of them
Come on.
tonight. But dude, we're talking about the Slash brothers. Freaking Dylan was a Splash brother tonight again. I don't
Mhm,
need to go on forever about that, but you see the rebounds as well from him. Obviously not as much playmaking with Steph and De'Aaron kind of handling that tonight, but even late in the game, he got that offensive rebound and it didn't turn in to a bucket for us on that possession, but he was just fighting until the very end and giving us chances. Um,
yep.
the kid's future. I mean, the sky's the limit. I don't know what even else to say. He's just again, he's a menace going to the basket. Like you said, once he gets that in between game going, I don't really know how you guard him.
You can't, and that's when the Spurs won a championship, Jude.
But man, Steph Castle, his playmaking, as you mentioned, it's so interesting to see how his assist numbers have gone up since De'Aaron has come back. And it's crazy because tonight you can see that De'Aaron can still be a playmaker, on nights where Steph has big playmaking nights. Um, but again, the attention that De'Aaron attracts. We kind of talked about that quote that he said. I don't know if it was the Thunder game or the game prior to that, but one of the post games for this cup, he mentioned that when he's off the ball, he attracts a lot of attention. So that can open up lanes for Steph and Dylan driving to the basket, but also the attention that he draws can open up looks for other guys and kind of, just open more space for playmaking opportunities for Stephon as well when they're on the floor together. So, that's something that they were talking about during the game, and I just
Mm.
I'd been seeing it, but I hadn't really connected the dots in my head. Um, so love to see that from Stephon, especially, I mean, it's crazy watching the game. I didn't really think it was that bad of a shooting night for him. And that's another thing to go back to the refs, take away like 3 misses for Steph, dude, because there were so many times where he was driving inside and got hit like by 2 or 3 people and they didn't call it. And then it'd be weaker on the other side and they'd give it to Jalen Brunson or whoever. It still wasn't an efficient game for Steph, but genuinely there were like 2 to 3 layups where I feel like he got fouled on. And if you take that off, 5 for 13 or 5 for 12 looks a little bit better. Again, still an inefficient game for him. Love to see the playmaking. But those guys were definitely probably the 2 best players on the floor tonight for the Spurs. But to talk a little bit more about Harrison Barnes, man, I know we mentioned that earlier. We kind of saw all tournament. It really was not the greatest stretch for him, especially from 3. I do want to give him credit. I know that sounds crazy, but look, there were a lot of those buckets inside that he had, a couple and ones that were at kind of momentous times of the game. And he knew his shot wasn't falling, so he tried to go get a bucket, and contribute in some fashion. And box score wise, the field goal percentage isn't that bad, but at the same time, still, these are moments where we need to see more from Harrison, especially as a vet, 3rd highest paid player on the team. Even like if you compare him and Devin, like again, that's just like so many more years of experience and like playoff experience. Like there's still, as much as like Devin's ante is up a ton this year, I can still give him a little bit more leeway, than I do Harrison Barnes, as much as I still want to see more from Devin as well, because he started the game really well. And then we just kind of didn't see that consistency go through. But, I don't know how much I want to like chop this up to just the Vegas arena, or if it is kind of, when the lights get brighter. And I hate to be that guy. But there have been times in Harrison Barnes' career, in the playoffs
Game
and
7, baby.
yeah, where he hasn't, been able to make shots from 3, when he has, pretty much throughout the rest of the year. So again, I don't know how to like approach that conversation, because it's like for me sitting here, I'm like, yeah, I could say that, but also like there's so much stuff that Harrison Barnes could school me on basketball
Right.
wise. And if I was in that scenario, I'd be a freaking potato. So it's like it's hard for me to criticize him, but at the same time, I think that's a conversation when you consider that the stakes were raised over the past couple games.
We should try to track it, honestly, Jude. We should like track national TV games, playoff games, and then like how many in a row that he has an off night. Because up until the play-in tournament, he was uneffing believable, right? So we can give him a pass this go around, but something we should definitely keep our eyes on moving forward. I like what you said about him getting some easy layups, getting to the free throw line, all positive things that you want to see from Harrison Barnes. But I agree. At the end of the day, he is paid to hit corner threes. And that's what he does best. And if he's not hitting his corner threes, we're gonna have to find a better solution to play, in that game. Devin, similar but different, because I agree. I think Devin played a very good game that the box score really doesn't cover,
I agree.
especially on the defensive side. Again, would like to see more efficiency, like you said, but overall, I felt it was positive. And really, when you think about the whole team, other than Harrison, I think it was a good game from everybody in those first 3 quarters, to be completely honest with you, Jude. Some plays here and there, missed rotation, whatever. But overall, the themes I felt were very positive about the Slash brothers, De'Aaron playmaking, getting some easy baskets, especially in that first half. When we were going through a rough stretch, he would settle us down with an easy
Yeah.
basket. Luke Kornet rebounding, 7 for 9 on the night, 14 points, second chance points, kind of off missed layups. He was getting a lot of opportunities to put baskets in. So, like, if the game had ended after the third quarter, I'm a very happy guy. It really just came down to that fourth quarter, and then thinking back on the brick shots from HB and just letting some of these New York Knicks that aren't necessarily game changers be game changers. That's not what you're looking for in a moment like this.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. You mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we'll touch on it more. Perimeter shooting, like kicking out to shooters, has been a big part of our offense.
It
You know what I
has.
mean? Harrison Barnes 0 for 4, Devin Vassell 2 for 7. Well, Steph's not really an example, but like Julian Champagny 1 for 4. And then obviously, you see Dylan out there, but even Wemby, 2 for 6. So nobody really had like a big game where they shot lights out. And
Right.
in a lot of our wins, even if it was just one guy, say it was just Julian Champagny or whoever, that has been something that you've seen on the box score with the wins. But I also liked what you were saying there about the first three quarters, because as much as we can touch on the perimeter shooting, first of all, let me see. I mean, the fourth quarter kind of will muck this up a little bit. Okay, so they ended at 38%. And I think that was probably a little bit closer to where we were at, you know what I mean, going into pre fourth quarter. And you could even say we were a little bit down because Dylan Harper hit a lot of threes in the fourth quarter for us as well. But again, man, to go back to those first three quarters, like as much as it wasn't a blowout, one, I wasn't expecting that against a New York Knicks team, but also, dude, like you said, I really didn't have a lot of complaints for those first three quarters. I was just happy, that we were, especially the third quarter. I know it ended up being 33-30. That was a little bit of kind of scoring at the end of the quarter there, but we were able to build the lead up to 10. And yeah, they came back and cut into it a little bit to cut it to 5 going into the fourth. But I'm like, again, I'm not mad at that against the Knicks in the Cup championship final. I'm expecting the game to be close. So I was really happy with how they played in the first three quarters as well, man. And you mentioned that point about De'Aaron. Early in the game, I think it was 7-2, or maybe it was 9-2. The Knicks were on a little run, and De'Aaron just goes up the court, hits an elbow mid-range jumper at 7-4. Everybody's calmed down, and then we can kind of get back into the flow and settle into the game a little bit. Do you think here? This is a question I'm thinking of kind of as I'm talking. What were your thoughts on like when we subbed in Wemby, right? Because in the OKC game, we waited until the second quarter. And obviously a little bit of that had to do with we wanted to, I think we had more minutes tonight than we did in the original OKC game. So we wanted to save him for the fourth in that one.
Right.
But how do you think that kind of affected the flow of the game? I never want to say that bringing him in is bad. But I do think that it was a little bit of a different feel than the OKC game.
It definitely felt different. I want to write it off though as a New York Knicks thing more so than a Wemby thing. Because as great as OKC is defensively, and they have a lot of size with Hartenstein and Chet, but they play together. And so when Wemby came in against the bench unit, he was going against, is it J Dub or J Will? I think J Will as
Yeah,
that backup center, who's more of a 6'9", 6'10", floor
that's a
spacing
good
big.
point.
He comes in against the Knicks. He's got Mitchell Robinson in his grill. I know he's quicker than Mitchell Robinson, but Mitchell Robinson is pushing him around, and the Knicks are known for their physicality. So I just think it was as a matchup difficulty. But you're right. He never quite found his comfort zone, and it definitely didn't feel nearly as impactful as it did against OKC. I mean, obviously he had what
Yeah.
plus 21 in like 6 minutes against OKC. Yeah, just a different circumstances.
Yeah. Jane in the comments says Wemby missed too many easy
He did.
shots. There definitely were some open ones that he missed on top of that. Want to give them some credit, but also he missed some bunnies as well, especially earlier in the game. But I really like the point that you just made about Mitchell Robinson there. That basically answered the question that I had there in my head.
Thank you. I will say in the fourth quarter, I had another friend texting me, the friend that you've actually hung out with. Sidebar.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
He was texting me. He was like, "I hate these shots from Victor. I feel like they're really rushed in that fourth quarter." And I sort of disagreed with him because I'm fine with Vic taking quick shots. I just think he took like bad shots. Like they were in bad positions. Like he wasn't fully balanced. He was posted up, but he didn't settle into his
Or like
position. He
rushed.
didn't. Yeah, he rushed it too much. But I'm fine if he takes shots in the post within the first 5 seconds of the shot clock, like whatever, because he's so much taller than everybody, and I think he's starting to figure that out. And he does that on occasion, but now he just has to figure out the timing of it. But I didn't know if you noticed that or you had a
No,
similar take.
I just echo everything that you said. There were a lot of times where, like I said, I mentioned rushed, but there were some other times where, like you said, his feet just weren't completely set and things
Hmm.
like that.
Right on.
I think it was, again, that goes back to the experience thing, being excited, with a
Mm.
trophy of some sort, you know what I mean, on the line, that
Pressing a
type
little
of
bit.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. But dude, okay, I think you mentioned him briefly earlier. Another big positive in tonight's game, Luke Kornet, dude. And
Mm.
I know we've talked about him since the day we signed him. You know what I mean? But that if you pick out, I mean, one person who just had a really solid, efficient game. Again, this is just box score watching, but I think even what we saw on the floor translates to what we see in the box score. It was Luke, dude. I mean, holding it down again.
Low key, I think we should have played the double big lineup. I know we kind of had to stagger them a little bit because of how Wemby's on a restriction, but 25 minutes to Julian, bro. He was playing played terrible offense. Like, we have to try something. And I think the Knicks went double big at one point, and we couldn't match it. They had like one possession where Vic had like
Yeah.
two blocks, I think, maybe only one. I don't know how many they gave him credit for, but he was fighting for his life because it was basically Mitchell Robinson, OG Anunoby, and Cat passing the ball off the rim to each other like at least 5 or 6 times. It's like, if we just played French vanilla tonight, maybe that doesn't happen. But I agree with you. I think he played very well. You're gonna look at the 6 rebounds versus Mitchell's 15 and think not a great matchup, but I think that's just who Mitchell Robinson is. And if you watch the game, you understand why Luke Kornet is so important.
Well, and also, Luke and Mitchell Robinson weren't matched up all the time either.
They
That was
weren't.
really more Victor and Mitchell.
Good point. Good point.
But yeah, just had to. I know, obviously, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, man. The fourth quarter. There's no other way to put it, especially when, as much as it was only a 5-point lead, when we had got out to that 10-point lead multiple times, I was like, this is it. We're going to really take over in this fourth quarter. And then it just totally imploded in our faces, and we weren't able to recover.
Yeah.
That was pretty much what happened, dude. The 13-1 run to start, it built into a much bigger run than that. And yeah, everything. It was like, we got the meal. We're at the nice restaurant. You know what I mean? We're taking it. We're taking it to the people. We have the dinner is ready. And then we just totally trip and just fumble and drop it all, dude. That was
Yeah.
how it went, man.
Yeah. But honestly, I'm glad it happened in the NBA Cup because it's probably good mental preparation and good coaching fodder for Mitch to kind of call back to as we look
Mhm.
to make an actual playoff push. Because, like you said early on, it would have been nice. We would have been happy, but doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad. I mean, it hurts a little bit. It would have mattered to me tonight to win it, but I am so glad that at least a painful loss like this isn't on the overall record. That is the one the one little tidbit we can take away.
And I think in a 7 game series, we win this one.
Ooh, there we go. We got a hot take from Ethan there. But definitely, just going to this neutral site, a playoff environment, if you will, beating the Thunder, dude. I don't, this sucks, but we beat the Thunder, man. And I'm not saying that I wanted this one. And again, to repeat what we've been saying the whole time, the fourth quarter collapse really hurts. But I just thought we were going to advance to the round and then lose in the quarterfinal. So the fact that we made it all the way to the final and then again beat the Thunder on the way there, like I'd rather beat, if you had to give me the scenario, and I don't know, I guess you can believe me or not with this, but honestly, I'd rather, in hindsight is 2020, I'd rather break the Thunder streak, which is like NBA historical, than win the NBA Cup. I got to be real.
I'm with you, dude. And maybe we're petty for that, but
Yeah.
don't. I mean, the Knicks, whatever. OKC, that's what mattered. That's really the NBA Cup tournament, and honestly, was a more enjoyable game overall.
Yeah, yeah, that's we'll keep it real here. A little bit of compensating for the loss with
Absolutely,
that one,
absolutely.
but a lot that the Spurs accomplished and learned in this NBA Cup. And the last thing I'll say, dude, as much as it doesn't matter and it's not the real championship, I am glad this is happening. Like, this is cool for all the teams involved, and this is cool for us, to have this game on a Tuesday night.
I enjoyed it. I had some boomer coworkers that were telling me like, "Go to a fake tournament." I was like, "Look, if you're a basketball fan, like, it's fun. Like, is it the playoffs? No. Does it really mean that much? No. But it's more competitive basketball than we've ever gotten in November and December, Jude. So I don't know about you, but I'm enjoying it, and I hope they continue to do it.
Yeah, we wouldn't be this excited about this game on a Tuesday the week before Christmas as otherwise.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Any final thoughts on this one, man?
No, man, it sucks, but I think overall, long term, probably a good thing for us.
Yeah, I wish that there was more like breakdowns or analysis, but if you guys watch this game, the first through third quarters were very, very close. I mean, there's some things that you can hit on here or there, but a lot of that scoring explosion from the 3-point line from the Knicks happened in the fourth quarter, and even some of our 3-point shooting as well whenever it comes to Dylan Harper. So again, not to oversimplify things, but it really just comes down to the start of the fourth quarter collapse, and not putting yourself in a hole that you can't dig yourself out of after working so hard to be in a position to have, to be in the driver's seat.
Agreed. Now we point our view to the Christmas Day game, Jude.
Oh yes, and they're gonna have some get back on that one, man.
Mhm.
They're gonna want to get back there. That is going to make that one even better. You just gave me something to look forward to, even more than this NBA Cup.
Back to back, actually, the 23rd and the 25th, we play the Thunder
And I think that's the first time we've played them like
in
on
our normal game.
in
Mhm.
one of our floors. Yeah, that's going to be very interesting.
Yes, sir.
Very excited for that one. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. We're going to wrap this one up a little bit early. We got work tomorrow. So, again, if you guys enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit that like and that subscribe button. If you want to follow us on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, and at Ethan_Quintero. And again, if you want to support the show in another way, you can go ahead and check out our merch here. We got the SSPN Fiesta merch, and it is in the link in the description as well as the QR code right here. Again, we appreciate y'all. We'll catch y'all on the next one, and